Deutsche Bank loaned more than $2 billion to Donald Trump before he became president, according to the New York Times. He managed to secure financing from the beleaguered German bank over 2 decades, despite several red flags and his multiple bankruptcies. In some cases, Trump exaggerated his wealth and promised to reward bankers with a weekend at Mar-a-Lago to get those loans. This report is coming after Germany's 2 biggest banks, Deutsche and Commerzbank, confirmed merger talks over the weekend, and our own Yahoo Finance columnist Rick Newman joins us here. Rick, we had an interesting conversation about this. First, give us the details. It was a very long piece. What really stood out to you?
Right. So the New York Times looked into, they got some insights into Donald Trump's business relationship with Deutsche Bank. Deutsche Bank, basically the only big lender willing to loan him significant amounts of money after several bankruptcies, and he even had a bankruptcy on some of their money. There was a default there that they got worked out. But there was really, I mean, this in a way, it actually makes Trump look a little bit better than I think people might have anticipated, because there's no indication in this story that he did anything wrong.
Right. If the bank is choosing to give out the loan, is it the lender who actually is in the wrong?
So, you know, Trump was considered a very high-risk credit because of all his business bank. I mean, he had, you know, thrown previous lenders under the bus and defaulted on many millions of dollars worth of loans. So if he was able to get Deutsche Bank to lend him this money, fine. Right. I mean, it's really on Deutsche Bank. So the Times put together this timeline and found that Deutsche Bank, when Trump got elected, they sort of said, wait a minute, he owes us all this money. And they sort of created this picture of Deutsche Bank not really realizing how exposed they were to Donald Trump. But there's nothing inherently scandalous in that. I think perhaps the one big sort of takeaway was that Deutsche Bank told its bankers, do not say the word Trump in public. In other words, just try not to draw attention.
That's a blacklisted word.
Yeah. So they rightfully, it turned out, were concerned that once he became president, which they didn't expect either, that this would bring renewed scrutiny of Deutsche Bank, which in fact it has, and the bank's relationship with Trump. But I mean, there's nothing in here that suggests criminality or anything like that.
Well, speaking of criminality, we know that Trump's financial ties with Deutsche has been the subject of investigations from 2 different committees, as well as the Attorney General here in New York. So do you think this will feed into that? Is it corroborating evidence? You know, how do those go hand in hand?
To keep the bigger picture in mind here, nobody cares if Donald Trump, the real estate developer, got loans from a bank. That's what all real estate developers do. The reason that there is all this focus on Donald Trump's finances is essentially to figure out if there's a Russian connection here, or if there's anything criminal in the way these loans were administered, or anything that looks like money laundering, for example. There's nothing in here about any Russian financing. And we should point out, this is obviously part of the focus of the Robert Mueller investigation, but we don't know anything. We really have no reason, no specific reasons, I should say, to think, based on what we know, that Trump has taken illicit money from Russians or from Russia. I think that is the main focus here. But, you know, a couple of things that actually I think were exculpatory for Trump. Number one, these Deutsche Bank bankers looking into his finances were surprised at how little debt he had, not at how much debt he had, but at how little. And also, number two, if Trump is able to get all this money from Deutsche Bank, then he doesn't need Russian money. It seems like he had funding at his disposal. Now, I'm sure there's a lot we don't know, but this is not what you expect if you are a Trump critic who is waiting for some big bombshell from the Mueller report.
Exactly.